Hey everybody, welcome to the What Did I Play video for the week of May 30th to June 5, 2016. Year's flying by. So let's get started with the board games that I played that week. I played 3 games that I'd never actually played before. I played, I guess we'll just go through them. I played Dark Moon, which is sort of Battlestar Galactica Light. It's a variant that someone made for Battlestar Galactica. It's a hidden trader mechanic where you're trying to everyone gets a roll card, and some of you are traders, some of you are not. In Dark Moon anyway, you're infected or non-infected. So you get this roll card, and then you sort of spend turns trying to either complete events to win for the non-infected, or if you're infected, you're trying to hinder these events and stop the other people from winning. If you repair the station or whatever, the infected lose. If the infected win, they cause the station to fall apart, something like that. But it's got a mechanic, unlike Battlestar where you play with cards, it does dice mechanics. So the dice come with positive and negative numbers, and when you roll to complete events, you have to get to a total sum of everyone's die rolls, and everyone contributes to die. So the traders are trying to put low numbers into the pots, and the people who are trying to win are trying to put high numbers so that they can beat the number in advance. It's good. I think I prefer Battlestar, even though Battlestar is a little bit longer. I feel like exposing the dice that you do in Dark Moon is kind of a hindrance. I don't really like that a lot. Like in Battlestar, you put the cards face down and everyone doesn't know what happens. You just know the end results, and then you have to figure out through who was involved in the voting what might have happened. Dark Moon, you show your dice, and I feel like that's kind of a hindrance to it, although it makes it play faster. I also got stuck with a roll that I wasn't crazy about. I got stuck with the person who gets to, once a turn, they can re-roll all their die. And it's terrible if you're the infected person. I was infected with that, so this might just be sour grapes, but I think it's bad if you're the infected with that roll card, because you really feel like you can't win. No matter what you do, everyone thinks you're infected, and if you are infected, that's bad for you, and if you're not, it's kind of a distraction, I guess, and makes it easier for the infected. It's also easier to roll your dice and get a better result that you're going to contribute. Where if you roll all your dice and then you roll them again and you continue to insist that you only have negative bad numbers, no one's going to really believe you. So that was it. I don't mind Dark Moon. You could probably play it in 45 minutes to an hour. It took a little longer for us, I think, because a couple of people had not played it before, but it was all right. It was okay. I think I'd prefer Battlestar. Second game we played was One Night Ultimate Vampire. It's the new take on the One Night Ultimate Werewolf series. There was One Night Ultimate Werewolf, there's Daybreak, and now they come out with a vampire thing. I wasn't crazy about One Night Ultimate Vampire. I feel like it adds the mark system, which is different from your roll card. So it's a social deduction game where everyone gets a roll card. Everyone closes their eyes and an app plays what everyone does on a turn. And depending on your roll, you do various things. So all the cards get shuffled up. And you have to determine at the end who are werewolves and who are villagers. And then you vote. And if a werewolf gets voted, the villagers win. If the werewolves all survive, the werewolves win and the villagers lose. This adds a vampire theme to it. And instead of just the roll cards, you now have mark tokens that you can move around. So you have a roll and sort of like a character trait, kind of like you're either mark of the vampire or you're in love, and you do separate things. I don't really like this. I feel like it's complicating things to a point where One Night Ultimate Werewolf was at its best when it wasn't that complicated. I feel like it adds a lot, and it adds a lot of rules and mechanics, and it doesn't really add a lot to the gameplay. I think I'd just stick with the regular werewolf. The feedback from the sort of group was like, well, once you get used to it, you'll know what you need to do, and this won't seem as clunky. And I mean, I guess that's true, but that's true for all games. It doesn't mean that the coin series aren't complicated. Once you get used to the coin series, yeah, you know the rules and you know how everything works. It doesn't mean that the game's not complicated. And One Night Ultimate Werewolf is just complicated, and I'm sure we could learn all the rules about who wins in what case scenario when this happens and when that happens. But I like the simplicity of One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where it's just you put to a vote, the villagers win or the werewolves win, unless the Tanner is involved, and the Tanner is the one card that you have to be aware of. This One Night Ultimate Vampire just adds a lot of complications and doesn't really add much to the gameplay. I wasn't really crazy about it. I need more plays of it, but not for me. I'd stick to the original One Night Ultimate Werewolf, I think. And the last board game we played was Evolution, which is really cool. I liked Evolution a lot. I thought about it after I stopped playing it, which I think is the mark of a good sign. I also went and bought it, so that's another mark of a great sign there. Evolution is like a card playing game where you come out with these species that have a body size and a population, and you play cards that give your species individual traits like flying, climbing, horns, things like that. And all these effects have different traits on how you can interact with other species and how much food you can eat. You're trying to win by eating the most food and getting the most population. And some people can turn into carnivores where they eat other players' animals and things. So it's this kind of balancing act about how you protect yourself, and then depending on what the other animals at the table are, how you advance to get more food and all that stuff. It's neat. It's kind of a cool idea. The theme is really well played with how the game plays, and that's always kind of a thing that I enjoy in games, when the theme matches up with the gameplay in a sense that makes a very strong amount of sense. And here it does. I think it does that really, really well. I like it. We played it with 7 people. I think it's way too much. I would rather play it with 2 or 3, I think. I like the strategy of the low. It's one of those games where I think it's more strategic when you have lower player counts, because when the higher number, everyone is just kind of doing their own thing, and it's way too much to pay attention to what everyone else is doing at the table. So you just kind of sitting by yourself playing cards, and it doesn't really feel all that great. I imagine with 2 or 3, you could actually see what the other people are doing and decide on which cards you want to play based on what the other people are doing. And I think there's a little bit more strategy to that than the way that it was being played with 7 people, where everyone's just kind of playing cards, and at the end you just have a sort of a random winner who, in this case, didn't get eaten by the carnivores as much as everybody else because the table was too far away and that person couldn't see what the other person was doing. So I think I'd like to try with 2 or 3, and I'll give a little bit of feedback after that. It was a really neat game. Artwork was beautiful. Very simple, but sort of strategic, and it played really quickly. And yeah, it definitely gets a thumbs up from me. So it's Evolution, the board game. And the only video game I've been playing has been Suikoden. I finished that. It took 15 hours to beat the original game, which I can't believe that's how quickly you can beat the original game. That was a really short, quick playing game when it came out in like '96. I got all 108 stars, so I collected all the characters, so I got the good ending. Good ending doesn't make as much thematic sense as I think the bad ending does, but ignoring that, I got everybody because I need to import my save into Suikoden 2. I'll do that. It was good. I'm gonna write a blog piece about it, I think, and then we're gonna do a podcast about it. That'll be probably an hour of us just talking about it, and I'll go more in depth there if anyone's interested in that. It was good. I enjoyed it. It went by really quick. It's got all the sort of JRPG stuff. It's got really old mechanics that really hinder it. The story is interesting. People always rave about this Suikoden stories, but I don't know if it's that good now that I was playing through it with a critical eye instead of just sort of breezing through it. I love the gameplay. I love the Stars of Destiny collection mechanic. I like all that stuff. So yeah, Suikoden, it's done. On to Suikoden 2, but you can look at for the podcast and the blog post potentially about each of those, where I'll go more in depth about what I thought when I was critically playing through those games. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching my What Did I Play video for the week of May 30 to 6/5. I'll see you later.